Hello, I am Debbie Thurmond, professor and endowed chair of the Department of Molecular and Cellular Endocrinology at the City of Hope. Here at the City of Hope, I also serve as the director of the Arthur Riggs Diabetes and Metabolism Research Institute. The focus of my laboratory research is on treatments and cures for type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and most recently, biomarkers of disease so that we can intervene and stop those diseases before they begin. Diabetes is a global pandemic. There are many millions of individuals, both in the United States and globally, that are afflicted with diabetes today. But what I really want to draw your attention to are the many millions with pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is the only opportunity that we have to reverse the disease before the disease ever takes hold and begins. For example, right now, 55% of Californians can be categorized as having pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. More than 10% of the US population has diabetes. 1 in every 3 children born after the year 2000 will experience diabetes in their lifetime. Globally, we are looking at a 51% increase in cases of diabetes by the year 2045. So how do we deal with this global pandemic today? Today, we have an unmet need because we have no biomarkers that can detect the early beta cell dysfunction that occurs during the pre-diabetic period. Indeed, type 1 diabetes etiology is benchmarked by dysfunction of the pancreatic islet beta cells. Shown here in yellow is the pre-diabetic period. Shown by the green squiggly line at the top is the only marker that we have right now of beta cell function, and you can see that that green line is not showing a dip in beta cell function during the yellow period. Hence, this biomarker is insufficient. Type 2 diabetes etiology is also benchmarked by beta cell dysfunction, also shown below with a yellow period. I have designated a beta cell filled with insulin granules, but less insulin comes out given that the cells are dysfunctioning. My laboratory has discovered a target that could serve as the first really good biomarker of beta cell dysfunction that occurs during the pre-diabetic period. The name of the protein is DOCK2B. It is soluble and it is highly expressed by islet beta cells. Indeed, DOCK2B's job is to regulate the release of insulin from the beta cell. And if one is deficient in DOCK2B in those beta cells, the beta cells do not work and the insulin doesn't come out. This is seen actually in human tissues of type 1 diabetic children. Shown on the right, there are green cells at the bottom that indicate that under the T1D heading, type 1 diabetes, they actually have insulin-producing cells, but they don't release any of their insulin. In part, we think this is because the DOCK2B, shown in red just above, is absent from these cells. And indeed, DOCK2B levels are exceedingly low in children at the time of diagnosis of their disease. Insulin treatment to handle their blood sugar problem does not remediate the problem of DOCK2B levels. And this is because DOCK2B is a biomarker of beta cell function, not of insulin. This carries forward to pre-type 2 diabetes diagnosis, where C-peptide levels are completely normal and not showing the disease etiology. DOCK2B has the ability to show a strong reduction in levels of pre-type 2 diabetics versus non-diabetics. So proof of concept for this further in mice is shown by a publication from my laboratory where the platelets and the islet beta cells from mice that were asymptomatic but known to be pre-diabetic had exceedingly low levels of DOCK2B. Those animals are called NOD for non-obese diabetic. Their control strain, the normal animals, are NOR, and you can see the dramatic difference. C-peptide levels in the pre-diabetic mice were normal. Glycemia was normal, and that is why they were asymptomatic. So I'd like to describe the proposed DOCK2B mechanism of action to you. In healthy beta cells, robust levels of DOCK2B are synthesized by the beta cell. That DOCK2B is packaged into small extracellular vesicles that then are secreted by the beta cell into the bloodstream. So when we're detecting DOCK2B in the bloodstream, we're seeing robust levels of it in healthy individuals. However, pre-diabetic beta cells, as I've shown you, have very little DOCK2B in them, and therefore there's less to be packaged into those extracellular vesicles for detection in the bloodstream. I'd like to show you proof of concept to support the model that I've just shared with you. DOCK2B in the bloodstream comes from islet extracellular vesicles. On the left, I'm showing you DOCK2B in the plasma from a severe type 1 diabetic patient that made little to no DOCK2B protein, shown here is day 0. Whereas by 30 days after receiving functional islet transplant, you can see robust levels of DOCK2B. This is indicative that DOCK2B is indeed coming from those functional islets in the transplant. Below, I'm showing you that it was retained over the 75-day period studied to date, and that is congruent with the patient having a very successful islet transplant. On the right, I'm showing you that when we take those human islets out of the body, put them into a dish, we can capture the extracellular vesicles that have been shed by those islets, and in 3 different human beings, we see remarkably similar levels of DOCK2B shown at the bottom. And in our one pre-type 2 diabetic individual, we saw significantly lower levels of DOCK2B, all congruent with our model, our mechanism of action proposal. So to summarize, to the best of our knowledge, DOCK2B is the earliest preclinical biomarker of beta cell dysfunction. Platelets or plasma from type 1 diabetic, pre-type 2 diabetic, and type 2 diabetic patients all reported defective beta cell mass and dysfunction, as well as low DOCK2B levels. The clinical utility is that this meets the unmet need for biomarkers of beta cell dysfunction during the pre-diabetic period of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. It's a non-invasive assessment, and there's great potential to enable earlier diagnosis of diabetes in asymptomatic patients prior to symptom onset. There's a great potential to intervene prior to disease progression. The business potential is remarkable. No biomarkers of pancreatic beta cell dysfunction yet exist. The demand for diabetes biomarkers is growing substantially, and there's otherwise no adequate, approved, or available alternative to specifically detecting DOCK2B compared to what we present today. While the key challenges exist, they are addressable for us. And so with this, I'd like to summarize to say, again, to the best of our knowledge, DOCK2B is the earliest preclinical biomarker of beta cell dysfunction and has great utility in diagnosing asymptomatic patients during the pre-diabetic period to evoke potential for reversal of these diseases. Thank you for your kind attention today. We're very excited about this opportunity and would love to hear from you. We are interested in partnership and in licensing opportunities. Please feel free to reach me directly. Thank you.